Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. My name is Squeak, and we have got a lot to talk about. This week, Uber finally reveals the details of a massive data breach affecting millions of unsuspecting people from last year. A church in Sweden declares God to be agender. EA is forced to suspend features in one of their newest games amidst allegations that allows children to gamble with real money, and just when you thought ISIS was done for, they rise from the ashes like a phoenix and kill over 300 people in Egypt. All this and more this week on The Squeakly Report. We, the American people, are at war. How many rich, cigar-chomping, megalomaniac health insurance CEOs doubling their profits? How many people have to die before we're willing to admit that we have a problem here? My name is Squeak Attack. Get used to me. I'll try not to flip my lid too much. You're probably not aware of the fact that I have a YouTube channel. It's nothing special, just another place my RSS feed automatically sends the show to. I get one view a week from there. Now, I'm not telling you to switch over to YouTube to enjoy this show, and for a number of reasons. The best place to listen to the Squeakly Report will always be on iTunes or through your favorite Android podcast app. But I do have several reasons why I don't like uploading content to YouTube, why my show is not primarily hosted through YouTube. The first reason is that YouTube actively suppresses content that isn't earning them any money, or rather isn't helping to mitigate their deficit. Yeah, fun fact. YouTube has never been in the black for Google. They've done all kinds of crazy things like promoting sick and salacious Spider-Man, Elsa, Peppa Pig mock-ups or pushing original films like The Thing, which actually is a pretty decent film, all things considered. It's like a PG-13 take on a Saw film. It's a little bit politically ignorant, but the point is they don't do this crap because they're greedy. It's because if they didn't, they wouldn't be here. You know, it was only within the past year that I could look through my recommendations feed and find channels with fewer than 10,000 subs with content that relates to channels I was already subscribed to. Why? Because they finally realized we're more likely to click on something related to the content we already watch than kids react to adults reacting to elders reacting to salacious Spider-Man, Elsa, Peppa Pig mock-ups. Just because it already has 10 million views. You know, that doesn't mean it's going to appeal to everyone, particularly not somebody like myself. Instead of Rihanna's Vivo coming up in my feed, for example, now they're showing me things like this series of interviews I found with Bruce Kulick of Kiss and Grand Funk Railroad. You know, music that is actually music and relates to genres I actually like. They've realized that if they're going to log every little thing you do, they might as well use it to push products and services you actually would care about. My second reason for not being a big YouTube fan is because of the adpocalypse that went down about a pregnancy ago. A bunch of companies pulled ad sponsorships on YouTube, companies like Coca-Cola, AT&T, etc., who used to pay for thousands of hours of advertisements daily, netting Google more than $750 million in monetary loss mitigation. Why did they pull their ads? Because a hit piece in, I don't remember which quote-unquote news site posted the article. It was either the failing New York Times or the fake news Wall Street Journal. Probably paid for by one of the big-name media giants, probably Viacom. They've always hated YouTube and have been muscling their way past fair use protection for almost a decade now. Yeah, the hit piece in question mentioned one video in particular which promoted terrorist content and earned $20 in ad revenue. $20. Yeah, no, this was clearly an orchestrated effort by someone. There's no way so many companies would react so reversely to something so uncommon and unprofitable. I mean, okay, YouTube has a lot of crap on it. But hundreds of thousands of people who once relied on YouTube ad revenue as a supplement to their income were forced to suffer for $20 freaking dollars. YouTube basically suspended ads indiscriminately until they came up with a means of monitoring where advertisers' money went. Of course, everyone assumes a lot of YouTubers make the kind of money PewDiePie makes, right? He's a multimillionaire thanks to YouTube. But that's really not the case. People earning 30 grand putting in 60-hour weeks are considered to be successful by YouTube standards, okay? That's like earning about $9.62 an hour. Successful YouTubers earn less than the average Wawa worker. So YouTube implemented a controversial new set of guidelines. First off, you have to have 10,000 views to qualify for monetization. Fine, not a deal. But that's about, $30 to $50 in lost revenue building up from those views? For the gaming channels, that wouldn't even cover the cost of a new controller. For animation channels, that's 5% of the cost of a UG drawing tablet, not even the best brand out there. Not much of an issue. Not ideal or fair to great content creators who fall through the cracks, but people can live with that. But then came the colored dollar signs, the bane of most YouTubers' current existence. Google's machines assign you a color based on the content you upload and whether it's advertiser friendly or not. Total BS if you ask me. You know why? Because there are people who post intentionally provocative and offensive content who are able to get companies to advertise with them. I got news for you, PepsiCo. People are less likely to buy a mattress if they think it's associated with something that offends them than a soft drink. If mattress companies are alright sponsoring that sort of content in private, you have no need to pull ads indiscriminately just because you're worried that somebody somewhere made $20 in the money you gave to YouTube for advertisements. These colored dollar signs represent how much ad revenue a person can earn, with green meaning it's completely advertiser-friendly, i.e. no swear words, nothing sexual, no violence or controversial political content, etc. Yellow means it's not suitable for all advertisers, but some may choose to opt in. So AT&T might say it's going to harm their brand, but Verizon might say, oh, that's okay, and you earn less money off that video as a result, but you can still earn a profit. Red, meanwhile, means Google isn't even going to risk it with advertisers. This, of course, has caused a lot of headaches for content creators. YouTubers earn the vast majority of their ad revenue within 24 hours of posting a video. The system, as you probably guessed, doesn't work. Completely benign content gets the red, right, and left. A very specific handful of channels that YouTube just loves, i.e. the Young Turks, they can get away with whatever they want, regardless of whether it adheres to their guidelines or not. Well, everyone's a hypocrite, right? YouTube will review videos manually if requested, but that takes up to 2 weeks. So it takes 2 weeks just to get the okay to earn money off a video when the vast majority of that money would have been earned within the first 24 hours. In other words, you're screwed from the get-go. Well, it's happening again. A bunch of companies, not as many this time though, thank God, have pulled ads indefinitely due to the number of videos showing children in compromising scenarios, which is quite the problem in and of itself, but YouTube's automated system simply can't detect that. Yeah, they can tell if you swear or talk about open carry rights, but can't tell if you're a guy in his 40s filming a naked 12-year-old girl. Once again, everyone has to suffer because of the actions of one or two people. Granted, I don't really know how true the article published by the failing New York Times is. It's most likely somewhere between half-truth and complete BS, masquerading as fact. That's usually the case with these sorts of hit pieces. However, it doesn't change the fact that people are being forced to suffer over companies having knee-jerk reactions to things they just don't understand. Starting to see why I don't care about YouTube? But here's a crazy idea. Go subscribe to my YouTube channel anyway. Look up the Squeakly report, and then when it says showing results for the Squeaky report, click search instead for the thing I actually typed in the search box, and subscribe to my YouTube channel. Let's see how many people we can get to smash that subscribe button just for the hell of it. Oh, but don't watch the show on YouTube. Listen to it on iTunes or a podcasting app or even the website instead. Save yourself the data. Better to download a 15 megabyte file than to watch a YouTube video in 5K. Yeah, did I mention that? That's right, my RSS feed automatically uploads the show at a higher resolution than 4K, at a higher resolution than most TVs can handle. What the actual, geez, YouTube, get a clue. It wouldn't be such a big deal in browser, but if you're watching on a smart TV or phone, it's going to automatically set the quality to 5K if it can, 4K on most TVs, and that's insane. You don't need to watch a static image of me while I talk in 4K. And you know what? If you want a third reason, it's because most people watching YouTube are using some sort of ad blocking software anyway. It really doesn't matter. After the first adpocalypse, some of my favorite YouTube shows reported making pennies to the dollar, some having lost as much as 99% of their revenue, all over, like I said before, a misunderstanding. That's my biggest advice for anyone looking to start any sort of show. Don't bother with YouTube. You're not going to be able to build a following there. Not in that environment. You're better off going through iTunes. Seriously. I might have had a tenth of the audience I have now if I was lucky, had I done the show exclusively through YouTube. I get maybe 0.25% of my traffic through YouTube. It's that bad. Here's another fun topic that's making its rounds around the YouTube sphere. Electronic Arts, publishers of many well-known games, and two-time winners of the Consumer's Worst Company in America came under fire for taking microtransactions in games just a bit too far. What are microtransactions? Well, you know those pop-ups you get in Facebook and mobile games that allow you to get extra lives or features for a few bucks? Those would be microtransactions. And yes, the big name AAA games you buy your children on their PlayStation, Xbox consoles are starting to have them as well. Fun fact, Microsoft Office 2016 doesn't recognize PlayStation as a word, but recognizes Xbox and will autocorrect so that the first X is capitalized and the rest is lowercase, as is stylized by the brand. Another brand that's never actually turned a profit for its parent company that just keeps trying to do desperate things to bring itself back to the black. Yeah, Microsoft has never profited off of the Xbox brand. The same with Google and YouTube. It's crazy. Anyway, the whole mess started with paid DLC, added content you pay for to enhance your games. Some companies like Nintendo, however, add this content for free. One of their most popular online games right now, Splatoon 2, is about 75%, maybe more at this point, free DLC or downloadable content. Just turn on your Switch console and it downloads and installs the file for you. It's great. But some companies want extra money for these updates. They mask an extra $5, $10, $15 for the extra mission, map, game mode, character, etc. that are developed sometimes years after the original game came out, and some companies like From Software are actually known for the incredibly high quality of their DLC add-ons, with that usually being better than the base game itself. Not always the case. Some DLC like Square Enix's Episode Gladiolus add-on for Final Fantasy XV, that's absolute trash. It was really easy, took about an hour to play through, and contributes nothing in the story whatsoever. Some DLC is cosmetic. If you don't like having to pay extra money, you don't have to. It's entirely up to you, and that's fine. I'm not here to complain about that. It's not that big a deal. Some games give you free add-ons for games that you've already paid for. Some companies charge you for the base game and a few extra bucks for add-on content. Some games are free, but ask for money for add-ons or extra lives. Developers and publishers need to get paid somehow. However, some companies take this to the absolute extreme. A lot of games are just requiring too much effort, time, and money to produce to justify their $60 price tag these days. Not to mention the fact that the vast majority of players will get the game either secondhand or many months later at a much cheaper rate than the launch price and therefore won't be paying in full for the game. So having the average player pay an extra $20 to $30 in DLC, microtransactions, and add-ons certainly helps. It's scummy that some games ask for $60 up front, $25 for what they call a season pass, which is basically paying for all or most of the DLC in advance in exchange for a bulk discount, and then have microtransactions anyway, usually when you can buy in-game currency with real money, but not as scummy as what some companies are doing now, and EA is notorious for this. Loot boxes. Random boxes of in-game stuff like outfits for your characters, new weapons and items, etc., which they charge real money for. Some content is exclusive to loot boxes. Some of it is just so hard to come by in-game that you almost have to use microtransactions to obtain it. And if you want to compete with other online players, it's basically mandatory. And now with the randomness factor involved, it's luck of the draw whether you or your kids even stand a chance playing against other online players. In an online game, a guy in his 20s or 30s with a full-time job and tons of disposable income to blow an EA's low Ponzi scheme is going to ruin the game for your kid who just spent his birthday money on the base game, all just because of random chance, because of this thing that he can't afford being 12, 13, 14 years old. Kids are even going as far as to stealing or racking up tons of charges on their parents' credit cards just for a chance at that shiny new gun or that impervious armor for their character. Some are even reporting signs of addiction to these loot box opening mechanisms. It's bad enough in the Splatoon game I mentioned earlier, where the game gives you items for free, and I swear I, a grown adult, can roll through 24 of them in 2 minutes trying to get optimal gear. And that's all stuff earned for free just from playing the game. They don't even sell it, you have to earn it. I can't imagine what it's like for teens and preteens to have to buy these loot boxes with real world money. Of course it's becoming an addiction for some of them. But is it gambling? Ask 10 different people, you get 10 different answers. You can't even get people to agree to what the definition of gambling really is. According to the dictionary, to gamble is to play games of chance for money, bet, or take risky action in hopes of a desired result. Dictionary.com classifies both non-monetary and monetary stakes as gambling. By definition, I think this counts as gambling. It's not as bad as, say, putting out a casino-themed game and forcing players to pay real-world money in exchange for chips or credits, but it's still gambling. But what we consider gambling, especially in regards to our children, varies so much. Playing skee-ball at Chuck E. Cheese is a game of skill, not a game of chance, so earning those tickets and exchanging them for a plastic whistle isn't exactly gambling, right? But can't you argue that spinning a wheel or using one of those machines that pushes quarters around is also going to require some sort of skill from the player? You see 3 wheels in front of you. One of them probably has a higher chance of hitting it big at this exact moment, right? Nothing involving machines is technically random, same as picking the right slot machine in the casino as an adult. Same as playing pachinko in Japan where you don't win money, but rather prizes like appliances and furniture. What about having memorized the statistical chances of busting in blackjack based on the hand you've been dealt, or making the conscious judgment call to stand at 16 when the dealer busts, or hit at 20 and just so happen to find that ace? Oh, and did you know that some casinos here in the US actually are adding in arcade-like games of skill now? So again, we can't agree as to what gambling is. The state of Hawaii and the country of Belgium both now consider loot boxes a form of gambling. In the UK, meanwhile, it's not considered a form of gambling per se. It's still deemed unethical, but they're not going to pass any laws regarding it. They may not be earning money, but they're too random and too necessary to consider games like WB's Shadow of War or EA's Battlefront 2 to be anything but a game of chance, in exchange for real-world currency, ergo, gambling. It's predatory behavior on the part of EA and WB. Some have said similar to the way Camel Cigarettes used a cartoon character back in the day to promote their brand. I don't know, back then I wasn't impressionable in that regard, so I can't really speak much to that. I wouldn't take it as far as that, because while Camel was allegedly marketing addicting behaviors intentionally, EA is not trying to get people hooked, they're just trying to turn a profit. It's scummy, it's immoral, but it's not pure evil. These games take a lot of time and money and effort to produce, I get that. But maybe we're just at the point where games are becoming too big and costing too much for the developers. Maybe we're reaching the pinnacle, and if we keep this up, we won't be able to produce decent games at a decent price anymore. Oh wait, that can't be, because look at this game that just came out a little while ago, Hellblade: Senua's Sacrifice. Open up a tab on your phone right now and run an image search for Hellblade. That game was made and produced by Ninja Theory, an independent developer, and it looks amazing. Granted, 5 years from now, Battlefront 2, Hellblade, they'll probably look like garbage. This is why when it comes to graphics, I tend to prefer stylized graphics. Now Google Okami, Okami, and tell me that doesn't look good to you. That game's almost 12 years old. Should I mention, again, Nintendo's own Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, where they actually applied effects to all of the otherwise realistic textures to make them look cartoony, almost like something out of a painting, to create this timelessness, this stylization that's going to immortalize this graphical style. Games can look good without being forced to bilk your buyers. Games can play well like Splatoon and carry a reasonable price. Even the original Splatoon on the Wii U, which is still running online, by the way, is still an amazing game, and a copy will run you like $30, if that, at most retailers. EA, WB, and all of you big publishers, you have no reason and no right to prey on children with these disgusting, greedy loot boxes. Bottom line. Alright, in other news, we've got more than 300 dead in a mosque shooting in Egypt by radicals donning the ISIS flag. A mosque now. Other Muslims. The Muslims are now cannibalizing one another to fuel the carnage they believe their God demandeth. And so shortly after the president declared ISIS dead. Why? See, we would have believed ISIS was dead, except that you told us ISIS was dead, Mr. President. Now they've reinvigorated themselves, and since you went and called them dead on a public platform, no less, it was only a matter of time before they were resurrected. Remember everything I talked about last week in regards to how impeaching the president would only strengthen our resolve as his constituents and supporters? The same applies to ISIS, apparently. What's worse, being Muslim yourself is just not enough to satisfy ISIS. No, you see, just as how Catholics and Protestants once fought tooth and nail, killing millions of people in the process, ISIS and other similar groups are still in that mindset. I've said it before, Islam is stuck in the Dark Ages in terms of social structure and common decency, morality, and this is just another example of that fact. Not all religions are created equal. Even if some people on social media try to tell you we're all from the same family, it doesn't matter where you come from, it matters where you end up. As far as what I've seen, Western Christians have more in common with atheists than Muslims. The sect of Islam ISIS is most often categorized as is called Sunni. The more moderate Islam, allegedly being practiced here in the US, is of the Shia sect. Each of these sects has several subsects, similar to how there are different Christian Orthodoxes and Protestant sects like Baptists, Lutherans, Methodists, etc. The Sunni, meanwhile, are much more radical, violent, and authoritarian branch of the family of Islam. So some Sunni Muslim radicals attacked a Sufi mosque, a sect with historical ties to the Shia division, because again, simply being Muslim isn't enough for these people. No, you not only have to be Muslim, but you also have to be their kind of Muslim. More than 300 people, including more than 24 children, are dead for going to mosque. In a country with incredibly strict laws against guns and, of course, explosive devices. That didn't matter. They still smuggled weaponry into a place of worship with the intent of hurting unarmed people. The Islamic family faith is overall behind the times, backwards in many ways compared to Judaism and Christianity. But there is no hope in fixing that, in bringing Islam into the 21st century if this kind of crap is allowed to continue to happen. We, the American people, need to make a decision. We only have two choices that won't result in our annihilation. We either fight against ISIS, Sunni, and any other Islamic practices that should no longer exist in the world, or we clear it out of our homeland and shut ourselves away. Canada and Europe are melting under their obsession with Islam and diversity, bringing this violence for themselves to enjoy. We need to make sure this doesn't happen to us. We can either accomplish this by fighting or by fleeing, because this toxic ideology isn't going to allow us to fare any better than the poor people of Egypt. Europe continues to face violent threats from refugees, Middle Eastern immigrants, and radical extremists. The very concept of jihad or holy war shouldn't exist in this day and age. We've moved past this. You guys know I'm not an atheist. I'm not agnostic. I'm a non-denominational Christian of personal faith in myself and service to the Lord. Unfortunately, though, not everyone sees things like this. Some people feel stronger, more fulfilled in collectives, and that's their prerogative, of course. However, some elements of the teachings of some preachers are just ludicrous. You need to sit down and evaluate it for yourself. Is what is being told to me something I should believe, or does it sound like complete BS? Is it 100% earnest, or is there an ulterior motive? Now, much like Sunni Islam, there are malevolent, destructive facets of liberal worship, toxic ideas that need to be snuffed out. Clergy in the country of Sweden are now required to never refer to the Lord with the words he, him, or his in an effort to make faith appeal to non-binary people. We have a full list of words that need to be changed in sermons in order to abide by these regulations. Forefathers needs to become ancestors or forebears. A gentleman's agreement should be an unwritten agreement. Girls for adults, no, refer to them as women. You don't want to call them girls anymore. Housewife should be considered a shopper or consumer, depending on the context. Manpower, no, let's call that human resources, because they had those back 2,000 years ago, right? Labor force, staff, personal workers, workforce, etc. Man or mankind, humanity, humankind, human race, people. Man-made, artificial, manufactured, synthetic. Man in the street, common man, average, ordinary, typical citizen or person. Right-hand man, chief assistant. Sportsmanship, fairness, good humor, sense of fair play. What? You mean to tell me they're more concerned with the gender binary language of the Bible than the fact that you're importing violent criminals by the thousands? Your history, Sweden. You're done for, and you know, I give up. I'm done. This is what the people of Sweden want, right? This is what the people of Sweden should get. Screw Sweden. It's time we bring a little Darwinism to the Swedish people. Survival of the fittest, and if you're going to expose yourself to infectious disease in Sweden, it's time you dropped over dead. And the worst part is that 15 or 20 years from now, American men in uniform will have boots on the ground in Scandinavia, bailing your sorry hides out. Our obsession with gender and the way individuals view themselves has gone too far. We've got a couple featured in the Love and Gender section on CNN.com. Why does CNN, which is supposed to be a factual news source, have a quote-unquote Love and Gender section? I mean, seriously, that's not news. Just a bunch of crap meant to say, hey, look how tolerant / caring / progressive / right we are. But here we have a guy on the show, This Is Life with Lisa Ling. Way too many L's in that title, by the way. Who is on there simply because he wants to share his opinion on the people critical of his relationship with a trans woman, i.e. a woman who used to be a man and probably still has a penis. Listen, I get it. Different strokes for different folks. I really don't care what you do, who you love, etc. But come on, for crying out loud. Don't complain about people finding what you're doing to be weird when you're sleeping with someone with a penis masquerading as someone with a vagina. People have the right to be weirded out by your weirdness, dude. Oh, we're all going to hell. We're all going to hell, and we're going to be sent there by non-binary God, where we'll be forced to entertain 72 non-binary, born-again virgins for all eternity. That's the way that works, right? And finally, this week, we have a lovely little data breach from Uber. It's affecting more than 57 million account holders stateside, plus countless others in Europe. What data, you might ask? Well, I'd imagine includes some of the information the Uber app claims to need access to in order to function. Let's take a look at what Uber actually needs in order for me to download the app. Identity, contacts, location, SMS, phone, photos, media, videos, files, camera, Wi-Fi connection information, and call ID. I mean, okay, I understand Uber might need some SMS and phone data, as well as obviously my location. Why do you need my phone's contacts? Why do you need access to my camera? And people are just installing this app on their phone so that they don't need to have a designated driver when they go out? Disgusting. Oh, not to mention credit card and payment information, which is obvious. Now, to be fair, Lyft is just as bad, maybe worse, needing Bluetooth connection information as well, but let's face it, Uber's way more ubiquitous than Lyft. Don't ever install either of these apps on your phone, people. Hackers will have everything from pictures of your family to where your kids go to school, where you work, and all of your contacts, phone numbers, and email addresses. The Uber app is practically a virus. Oh, but wait, it gets better. And by better, I mean stick the barrel in your mouth and squeeze, because it's got to be less terrifying than this. Kind of better. This happened last year, back in October, and Uber's new CEO, Derek Khosra, very foreign, knew about it months ago, and even paid hackers off on the faith that they would delete the stolen data. They also apparently got the driver's license numbers of 600,000 drivers, and a driver's license number is almost as good as a social security number when it comes to running credit checks and applying for store credits, utility services, etc. Waiting so long to disclose this information is actually illegal in most US states. You do realize that, right? My guess is we're going to have a massive class action lawsuit on our hands in the near future. So what are your thoughts on this? Drop me a tweet at Squeak_Attack, post on the official Squeakly report page, join our discussion group, and subscribe on YouTube if you hate yourself. Let me know if you'll still be using Uber, or if you're scared as I am about this. It's been a week. Great week to hide under a rock, I guess. Be seeing ya. I guess. Like what you heard? Hate what you heard? Want to see me dead? Follow me on Twitter at Squeak_Attack and join our Squeak Attack feed Facebook group and fan page. Rate, review, and subscribe on iTunes, leave a comment on the blog, and as always, have a good day.